everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to start out doing a series called Twist Talks, and in these videos you will see me, in this first video I'm going to be starting my son's starter locks, which this video has been pre-recorded from October of last year when he first decided he wanted to get his dreads back. And we are also going to discuss certain topics that I feel like are important to know, just from my knowledge and from my personal experiences. So before I get started into the topics, I'm going to first just tell you about some of the products I used in his hair. So to start off his starter locks, mind you guys, I have not done locks in years. Like, I did his locks when he was younger because he had locks, I think, from 2 or 3 years old to the age of 5 or 6, and then he got them cut off, and then now he's 12 years old deciding, hey, I want my locks back. So, you know, things have changed since I used to retwist. I think I used to retwist his locks when he was younger with beeswax and a comb, and now I just, there's so many different options you can use from. So I decided to start off with a product called Lock It Up. It's a very light gel. It's not too heavy on the hair. That's why I like to use it to start off his locks. So that is what I'm using here. I'm also using a comb, and you also need clips. I am kind of like a perfectionist when it comes to my parts, so you guys will see in this video and future videos, like, I do not play. I like to have clean parts. I feel like that makes your locks look so much better. But that's just me personally, and that's my opinion. But we're gonna go ahead and get started into the videos. Okay, so in this video, we are going to talk about setting boundaries, the importance of setting boundaries and keeping your boundaries for the sake of your health, your mental health, for the sake of your relationships with other people, and just for the sake of your sanity, okay? Setting boundaries is so important. I cannot express it enough. I am one of those people who have lacked setting boundaries. I am just learning in year 29 to be able to set and try to keep my boundaries, and it's still something that I struggle with today. So we are going to just have that conversation because I feel like it's very important. So if we're going to be very brief, I'm going to tell you that setting boundaries means it's really just you telling people how to treat you and enforcing that on a consistent basis. So for an example, if I don't like, when someone comes late to an appointment, okay? And let me tell you guys, this is just an example. I have a zero tolerance when it comes to no call, no shows. So you have no opportunity, because I'm not one of those stylists who make people pay deposits or anything like that. Like, I'm very flexible because this is not something that I do full time. This is something that I just do on the side because I enjoy doing it and because I'm pretty decent at it. So if you if you just don't come to an appointment, we set up an appointment, you don't come, you can never ever book with me ever again. I'm not making no exceptions, because number one, you didn't communicate with me that you were not coming, and number two, you wasted my time. So that's my boundary when it comes to doing hair. I have no exceptions for no call, no shows. And I'm not going to make a consideration for that to make other people feel comfortable, because I feel like as adults, we have an expectation to communicate with each other. And by not communicating with each other, you're not respecting policies, procedures, whatever. But that's my boundary for a situation like that. And I tell people that. No call, no show, you never have the opportunity to book with me again. So that's me expressing to other people my boundaries, telling you what I expect and how to treat me. And if you disrespect that, then you don't get the opportunity to book no more. I'm not dealing with you. Now, the real definition for setting boundaries is respecting your needs, your emotions, and your thoughts, asserting them onto others in order to have peace and balance when dealing with other people. Peace and balance is so important, not only for yourself, but for others. Who wants to have a stressful situation when dealing with other people all the time? So if you lack boundaries, you're going to lack having healthy relationships. That is something that I realized And once I realized how important having healthy relationships is, that's all I want. I want healthy relationships. I don't want unhealthy, toxic, disrespectful relationships in my life. I don't have the energy for that anymore. So, next we're going to get into the importance of setting boundaries. It's important because you can create trust. Again, you can build healthy relationships. You have that respect for one another, and there's a safety aspect as well. If you want to get technical and you want to talk about feeling safe, mental health, for your mental health, it's a safety precaution that you're taking for yourself to ensure that you are treating yourself kind and that you love yourself. So I'm going to talk about some signs that you may be lacking boundaries. If you often feel overwhelmed, you may be lacking boundaries. If you feel resentful towards other people for them asking you for help, you may lack boundaries. If you avoid calls and phone interactions with people, or just interactions period, from people who you feel like may ask you for something every time you talk to them, you're lacking boundaries. If you often make comments to yourself about not getting nothing in return and always helping other people, you lack boundaries. If you feel burnt out, if you often dream about disappearing, if you have no time for yourself, you may be lacking boundaries. I learned all of these signs in a book that I'm reading called Set Boundaries and Find Peace. And it's a guide to reclaiming yourself, and it's by Nedra Glover Tawwab. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And it is literally known as the Boundary Bible. I'm currently reading that self-help book to help myself when it comes to setting boundaries and keeping those boundaries. Because just because you set boundaries doesn't mean you're able to set and keep them. It's constant work for yourself. It's not bad self-work. It's good self-work because you're able to set the expectations of how you want to be treated by other people. And you have to honor that, because what do they say? What you allow is what people will do. So you don't want to allow certain things that you're not okay with, and the boundaries goes the exact same way. So some benefits to setting boundaries are improved health, improved relationships, clear expectations, less stress, and improved self-care, and of course, respect from other people. So next, what we're going to discuss is understanding boundaries. So what you have to understand about boundaries is boundaries are a safeguard to not overextending yourself for other people. So it's pretty much you protecting yourself. They're also considered a self-care practice. They help define roles in a relationship and where people can cross lines. I'm sorry, not cross lines. You don't want people crossing lines, but it's pretty much a guideline of where you don't want people to cross, so they're not interfering with your inner peace. You have to be able to communicate what's acceptable and what's not acceptable to people. You can't just assume people know what your boundaries are and what you expect of them. It has to be communicated first. And then if people continue to disrespect those boundaries, then that's where you have to take further actions. Of course, again, this is going to keep coming up, creating healthy relationships, creating clarity, and of course, again, feeling safe. So, poor boundaries would consist of oversharing, codependency, the inability to say no, being a people pleaser, which, man, you guys, from me taking therapy, I learned that was one of my biggest issues. I am a people pleaser. I don't know how to say no. I don't know how to not try to help people. I'm always trying to help people and do for other people, not realizing that that's taking away from me. So just really finding a balance on when I can help other people, when I absolutely can't for the sake of myself. Depending on feedback from other people. So if you're always looking for validation and some type of feedback from other people, that's a poor boundary. And then accepting mistreatment. You know, you have to, that's another thing, you have to know and realize how you want to be treated by other people. And you know, for the most part, what's unacceptable, what you feel like is considered disrespectful. So don't accept that. Don't allow that, because once you allow those things to happen, they're not going to stop. So if some extreme boundaries are never sharing, building walls, shutting people completely out, avoiding vulnerability, cutting people off, high expectations of others, like so high that people can't meet those expectations, and enforcing rules. So over enforcing rules. So there's also negatives to setting boundaries if the boundaries are extreme to the point where people cannot meet those boundaries. So also keep that in mind. You have to consider that when you're considering setting your boundaries, and don't do that on purpose because you just don't want to be bothered with people. You know, figure out why you don't want to be bothered with people and then address that the way it's supposed to be addressed. So some healthy boundaries are being clear about your values, listening to your own opinion. One thing I like to do, I actually love to do, is journal. I've found it to be so helpful to me. I write down literally everything. And I go back and I read it, and I make sure that it's something that I feel like is important to me, that I definitely try to listen to myself. So being comfortable with saying no, and I'm going to be honest with you, that is the hardest thing for me. I'm like, man, I can either say no and have to deal with that whiplash of saying no, because there's always whiplash that comes with it, or just ignore people. And ignoring people is not healthy. So I definitely would not advise you to turn to that extreme of a boundary. That's not even a boundary. That's just an immature way of dealing with things. So don't turn to ignoring people. Find a way to discuss with people, you know, I'm saying no, and then just leave it at that. Don't explain yourself. Don't try to validate you saying no by explaining why you're saying no. Just say no and move forward. People will be all right. And then come back around and figure it out themselves. That's just what it is. And then being comfortable with hearing no for yourself. As long as you can accept someone, okay, they're either going to say yes or no. And if they say no, it is what it is. Move forward, move past it. Don't dwell on it, okay? Don't dwell on people saying no to you. All right, so once you figure out what boundaries need to be set, you have to make sure you are able to properly communicate those with your family, friends, or whoever may be violating your boundaries. And then taking action. Taking action is really just continuously enforcing the boundaries. Just because you set the boundary and you communicated the boundary doesn't mean you don't have to enforce it. You have to enforce it so people will follow that boundary. That's literally like you telling people what they cannot do, what you won't allow. So some responses you may receive to setting boundaries are some pushback. You know, if you're not used to setting boundaries and people are not used to you setting boundaries, they're not going to agree with it. So their initial response is going to be to push back on your boundary setting, kind of make you feel bad. Some people might try to manipulate you. They're going to test your limits, see what they would be able to do and what they can't do. Ignoring you, they'll give you silent treatment. They will be defensive. They may ghost you. That's another form of making you feel bad. Some people may accept the boundaries, you know. It just depends on who you're dealing with. And that will also determine if you have a healthy relationship with that person or not. If you set a boundary and if they're accepting of it, they're understanding of it, okay. That's a healthy relationship. They get it. But if you set a boundary and they try to guilt trip you, they try to manipulate you, they try to make you feel bad, that's not a healthy relationship. And that boundary needs to be set, and you need to stand firm on that because they're already giving you a hard time at that point. So that's not good. So, you know, just make sure you journal and you understand what exactly you need for yourself and what you want others to do for you, and you allow people to follow those boundaries. Some impact of not having boundaries are burnout, and it can also trigger anxiety. You know, you can start to feel anxious and uncomfortable if you don't set boundaries. So that's definitely something that you don't want. You want to try to avoid is feeling anxious and burnout and stressed out and aggravated and frustrated. So, you know, my advice to you would be to definitely write in a journal of what boundaries you feel like are needed and necessary. You know, communicate those with your family and friends and start to practice those boundaries. Like I said, I will list the book below, that the self-help book that has helped me with my boundary setting, which is going to be a constant battle for me because the people pleaser in me wants to allow me to help everyone else, but you know, my mental health is telling me, no sis, take a step back and really understand what you need for yourself. You come first before you can help anybody else. If you're not right for yourself, you can't help other people. So keep that in mind. I hope you guys enjoyed this talk. I'm going to just let you guys finish watching me do Jay's hair. I'm not going to talk the whole 23 minutes, and then enjoy the music. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about anything that I said in this video, please comment down below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is the first video of our Twist Talks. I'm going to do a series. Periodically, I'm going to upload some Twist Talks while I am trying to upload other videos, and then to make sure you share this with other people. I feel like this is helpful information that we can all use. This is information that I was not taught. I did not learn this until I did therapy, and I definitely think this is critical information to having a happy, healthy life. So thank you guys so much for watching, and continue to keep watching, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.